Welcome to our Healthy Workplaces podcast. I'm Liz Burley, and this series of podcasts is all about having conversations regarding health, disability, different health conditions, aspects of health, both male and female, and how health affects the workplace, and in particular, people's ability to stay in work and thrive at work. So the news headlines are constantly telling us that this is a problem, whether it's the so-called sick culture that Rishi is tackling, or it's to do with the rise of the prevalence of mental health conditions and how they're affecting people's ability to engage with work, or long-term serious health conditions that affect people's ability to carry on working for their full lifetime. So we know that this is all having an impact on us as a nation and our relationship with work. And with an ageing workforce, this is only going to get bigger as an issue that we need to tackle. I'll be talking to guests who specialise in various aspects of health, and I'll be getting their take on this and how we can do better. So today I am joined by my first guest, Marie Cherrett. Welcome, Marie.
Hi, Liz. Thank you for inviting me on. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, I'm really pleased to have you, and thank you for agreeing to be our first guest and being our guinea pig as we start our podcast journey. So, Marie is a functional nutritional therapist. We're going to take a deep dive into what that means and the work that she does in a few seconds. We'll be hearing from Marie about the work she does and how she helps people with their health, not just around their ability to work, but to live full and productive lives. We're also going to shine a light on menopause today, how it affects women in the workplace, some of the stigmas and myths surrounding menopause, and very importantly for this podcast, what employers can do to support women to stay in work in this important phase of their life. So Marie, let's get down to it. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and how you got into this area of work?
Okay, well, as you said, I'm a functional nutritional therapist. So what that is nutritional therapy is we use food as medicine, and functional medicine is the first part of that description, is a modality where we dive very deep down into the root causes of illness and of symptoms and, people's health struggles, to find the very, very root causes rather than just patching up symptoms. So, things like when you go to the doctor, and mainstream medicine is all about putting band-aids, sticking plaster approach onto illness. We really, we don't do that, but we rather look deep down into the root causes of what's going on for people so that we can get people truly well rather than just placating the symptoms with a band-aid approach. So and I got into this profession a couple of decades ago now, when I was really quite unwell myself with an eating disorder, and I was very addicted to junk food, had all sorts of infections, all sorts of health problems, and I was heavily medicated, so I really wasn't feeling very well, and I needed to improve my health in a very, very drastic way. So that's how I got into this, because at the time there was no internet. I didn't know that that anything else existed other than mainstream medicine, and I really had to dig deep to find a nutritional therapist at the time from the Yellow Pages to help me get well. And once I got well, I just wanted to share that with everybody else, that true health is possible and it's achievable with changing your diet and lifestyle. Yeah, so that's my story.
That's so interesting. So often when we talk to people who have discovered a specialism and developed a specialism, it comes out of their own experience, and that's it's so true for you, isn't it? That would you call yourself a health evangelist in some senses, that you've discovered this different way, this different path, and you want to, it's a passion of yours. to share?
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the time, I didn't know that there was anything else. So it took me 10 years actually to reach out, to have the courage to reach out to anybody else, because I didn't know that these things existed, you know. So I'm glad I did. So yes, I'd call myself an evangelist, a health evangelist. That's a great,
Yeah,
great
yeah.
term.
Just thought of it on the spot. And tell me a little bit about your methodology and how you work with people. When you do get approached, well, when you find people to work with, what sort of people come to you, and where do you start with them, and what path does that take then once you've got to work with them?
Okay, so I work with women in midlife, so women aged 40 and beyond. So that's a period of time when they transition into perimenopause, which is 5 to 10 years before the actual menopause process happens. And, you know, because hormones are going up and down during this phase, you know, progesterone can get very low, whereas estrogen can fluctuate during this phase. Women come to me experiencing all sorts of symptoms that they're not familiar with, such as weight gain around the middle, maybe migraines, maybe heavier periods, menstrual cycle issues, mood disorders, and things like that. And so this is a period where, you know, things can get worse for women, and they don't really understand what's going on with regard to their health. So I see women from that postmenopausal phase right through to perimenopausal phase, right through to the postmenopausal phase, once they've, you know, gone through the menopause of not having a period for 12 months, and then they're automatically then postmenopause. So they are my clients. So I help them balance their hormones to basically feel better and look better, and not have so many menopausal symptoms, or not quite so severe anyway in experiencing their symptoms. So yeah, that's my work then.
So, Marie, would you advocate that when women come to you in perimenopause, that they work with you as an alternative to mainstream treatments like HRT, or can that work alongside your methodology?
Yes, it works alongside my methodology. So I don't encourage, you know, I don't discourage women to have not to have HRT. I'm a proponent of HRT myself. I think natural HRT, when you're using bioidentical hormones, they're the hormones that are identical to the ones that we produce in our own body, then that can be very, very healthy. But whether, you know, you're actually getting your hormones exogenously from the outside, as in HRT, or whether you're still, you know, using your own hormones from your own body, because we are still secreting hormones even after menopause, we still need to make sure that we are balancing these hormones and keeping them balanced, because this is key. We've got to make sure that we're metabolizing these hormones once, you know, once they've served their purpose in our body. And we also need to have them detoxified safely and eliminated, you know, once they serve no purpose anymore. Otherwise they become quite toxic, you know, and this is where estrogen dominance and things like that can come into play. We're not eliminating those old hormones, and they're being reabsorbed back into our system. So yeah, I mean, I work with women who have had HRT or are having HRT, and I work with those who are choosing either not to, because they don't want to, or because they can't. So it's very much a complementary therapy that I'm using. Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, so in terms of balancing hormones, I'm guessing that can be they can be out of balance at any stage of life, but you focus predominantly on this particular stage of life for women, but presumably it can affect men as much as it not the menopause, the out of kilter hormones can affect men just as much as women, but in other ways, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, because we're living in a sea of toxic, you know, chemicals in the environment, and we can't wrap ourselves in cotton wool. And obviously some of these chemicals have hormone like properties where they interfere with our own hormone health as well. And so, yes, hormonal imbalances can happen at any age, but certainly from age 40 onwards, when our own hormones are declining, and then we've got influxes of other hormones from like food and from the environment, from our beauty care products, from our water, and we're just surrounded by things like that, and that can really have a very, very negative effect on women's health and men's health actually, and really affect the menopausal phase of life and cause all sorts of problems. So I'm here to help them detoxify, help these people detoxify properly so that they're not taking on these exogenous hormones from the environment, and we can be as healthy and as balanced as possible going through the menopausal phase. Yeah, absolutely.
It's absolutely fascinating, and I kind of feel, listening to you, I kind of feel like this is an area of health that it's much under explored and under discussed. The effect of the environment on our hormone health and how that relates to all of us, not just particular groups that we hear a lot about in the news, like menopausal women or people with reproductive problems or people with thyroid problems. So hormone health is important for everybody, I think, is what you're saying. And yeah, does it feel like there's a long way to go here, that we need to get more information out into the public domain, raise awareness
Yeah.
of hormone health and how nutrition and other things can affect it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the message really does need to get out. There has been a lot of research done all around the world. Perhaps, you might be familiar with the blue zones, for instance, where women are still going through menopause, but they're not experiencing the symptoms that perhaps we are here in the West. And one of the main reasons for that is the fact that they are living in a more natural environment, and not surrounding themselves with perhaps, ultra processed food that has all these hormone disrupting chemicals in, and their surroundings are more natural, if you like, so they're not taking on these exogenous toxins from the environment influencing their hormonal health, so they can sail through their menopause better. But also another aspect as well is that they live in an environment where there's less stress, and stress is actually a huge problem for people suffering hormonal imbalances, because any stress at all actually will make symptoms a lot worse. And stress, unfortunately, comes in many forms. It's not just psycho-emotional. We can get stress that comes from within our bodies. Say if we have poor gut health, for instance, that's going to be a stressor. If we have blood sugar imbalances, if we're starving ourselves or not eating properly or eating the wrong foods, lots of sugars and things like that, so our blood sugars are all over the place, that's again another stressor. So all these stressors can really impact especially women in going through that menopausal transition. Yeah, for sure.
Gosh, there's so much to unpack here in the short time that we've got available. But these are, each bit of this conversation is fascinating, and I want to delve deeper. So, Marie, we know a bit about how you work with people, but how do they come to find you in the first place? So I'm thinking a lot of women have heard the news, the news coverage of how menopause is affecting women, and there's much more awareness of that now because of Davina McCall and her TV programs and various celebrities, and other voices keeping this alive as an issue, and women becoming more confident, having more open conversations. So I think more women are approaching their doctors and going on to HRT. But how would they be signposted to somebody like you, and how would they know that this is something that could help them?
Okay, I think it's really important to understand that whether you're on HRT or not, you're not necessarily healthy. You may have help to address some of your menopausal symptoms through HRT. But I think many women need to ask themselves, are they truly healthy? Are they still suffering from perhaps, brain fog, fatigue, weight gain, all those things, sleep issues, these things can still be continuing even after being on HRT, but some of those symptoms obviously have improved due to the HRT. So, this is really a time for women to sort of seek further help. And obviously there's a lot of people like myself, there's a lot of nutritional therapists out there, nutritionists and people who work with menopausal women to help, as I say, you know, balance those hormones and really tackle the root cause of these issues, why they're there in the first place. So if you're coming into to perimenopause and you're not healthy before coming into perimenopause, having HRT isn't going to suddenly miraculously make you healthy. You know, you've still got to, as I say, you've still got to have to have a healthy gut, healthy liver, to process those hormones and to be truly healthy. So really, my sort of work tends to attract women who are you know, who know about these things, who know about alternative health, and who actually want to be healthier and feel amazing, you know, feel even better than what they're already feeling if HRT is helping.
Yeah. Interesting. And would you say doctors are signposting? You mentioned some doctors are training in this now. There's more awareness in the medical profession. Are they more prepared now to signpost their patients to complementary therapies like the ones that you provide, would you say?
I think the majority of doctors are still unaware, but there are, as I say, a lot of MDs training in functional medicine. So they're very much looking for the root cause of issues, you know, and menopausal symptoms, like any other symptom of, you know, poor, I would say poor health, even though menopause itself isn't a disease as such, not at all, but it's still, if you're suffering from a lot of symptoms, it is a clue that maybe your metabolic health isn't as good as you'd like. And so, you know, there are doctors out there who are training in this and who are, you know, who want to get to the root cause in the same way that we do as nutritional therapists. They might not have so much experience with the diet side of things, which can be a handicap for them. But certainly, you know, a functional nutritionist or nutritional therapist like myself can address the whole thing, you know, with the diet, as well as looking at the underlying causes of these symptoms.
Yeah, so it will give people a more holistic approach to their general health, and
Yeah,
menopause being part
absolutely.
of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So I'm gonna come on now to the workplace, which is what I'm sort of inviting people to come and talk to me about, with their sort of with the backdrop of their specialism. So for you in functional nutrition, looking at menopause and how it interplays with people's working lives. From the experience that you have and your expertise, can we talk a little bit about how you think that menopause impacts women's um, physical and mental health in the workplace, and how it can affect their kind of ability to carry on working and stay well at work, and stay economically active, you know, keep earning a living through their 40s, 50s, into their 60s perhaps, if they want to, if they have to, and what employers can do to support them through this phase of life and the changes that it brings.
Yeah, sure. I mean, menopause is a time of great change for women. You know, I mean, they might be reaching the pinnacle of their career. They might have, you know, they might have teenagers growing up at home, which is always stressful. You know, they may be looking after elderly relatives or
Yeah.
going through marital difficulties. It's a time of great change for women. So there are a lot of compounded stressors for them to have to deal with. And obviously, you know, then they take all these stresses into the workplace as well, which can have a significant impact on how they are, you know, coping at work due to a variety of symptoms coming on. As I've said before, stress, you know, the more stress they're under, the worse their symptoms are likely to be. And so we've got symptoms such as hot flashes and night sweats. So if they're experiencing night sweats, they're not going to be sleeping very well. They turn up at work feeling very, very tired. You know, there'll be the mood swings, there'll be the fatigue and difficulty concentrating because of the brain fog. And so the symptoms can lead to decreased productivity and more time off work. And that compounding stress for women experiencing menopause, you know, whilst they're trying to balance the responsibilities of work and life as well. It's a lot for them, a
Mm.
lot for them to cope with. And employers can support women through this transition by implementing various strategies. Firstly, fostering an open and supportive workplace culture where women feel comfortable actually discussing their menopausal symptoms with managers or HR personnel. I mean, this is crucial for them. Um, Providing flexible working arrangements as well, such as flexible hours, remote work options, job sharing can also allow women to manage their symptoms better. Additionally, offering access to resources and support networks as well. So educational workshops, webinars conducted by people such as myself or other health professionals who specialize in menopause. And these sessions can really educate and empower women to make informed decisions about their health during menopause. So, for instance, the importance of nutrition and lifestyle on menopausal symptoms can provide some practical tips for them for managing symptoms, whether it be at home or at work.
Those are all really, really powerful suggestions, and I've met a number of women who have not felt supported at work in this crucial time of life, or who've been, managed out by an employer who badges this as something that's redundancy or performance related, or just not a good fit, when in fact they suspect that this is, quite frankly, ageism at work, because
Yes.
the employer just perceives that this person is past their best, so to speak. Um, and we know, that employers are up against it. There's a lot coming at them all the time, managing a diverse workforce, people at different ages and stages, and the differences between different generations and their expectations of the workplace now. Things having changed a lot since COVID in terms of what people are prepared to give and what they expect back from work. So there's a lot coming at employers. There's a lot of change, but um, do you think, if we can sort of look at it from the employer's perspective, do you think there's some benefits for the employer of taking this more open-minded approach, this more proactive approach, this more inclusive culture, whether it's thinking about menopause or any other health-related condition?
Yeah, because women are going to feel more supported and understood, obviously. Um, so workplaces can ensure that women experiencing menopause can thrive professionally whilst managing their symptoms effectively. I mean, one common misconception surrounding menopause in the workplace that it's solely a medical issue and not relevant to the workplace. So as a result, women, they feel hesitant to disclose their symptoms or even ask for support from their employers due to fears of being perceived as incapable. And obviously no one wants to feel like that. And there's also stigmas attached to discussing menopause openly. So that can lead to feelings of embarrassment or shame among women experiencing these symptoms. So we really need to, employers need to really break down these barriers and create a more inclusive and understanding environment, using education and awareness. I mean, that's absolutely key, isn't
Yeah,
it?
absolutely.
And they can provide training sessions or informational resources to all employees so that everyone understands and empathizes towards menopausal women's experiences in the workplace. So
Yeah.
yeah, encouraging that open dialogue, I think, is really important. Yeah.
Do you think one of the common myths is that this is all going to cost a lot of money, so we haven't got the budget for it? If you open the floodgates for one group, you've got to do it for everybody. Whereas, in fact, there are quite a lot of free resources out there already, and there are so many events happening and programs involving speakers like collaborating with the NHS or with other groups, where there is help out there, but employers, perhaps they feel they haven't got the time to go and research and find out. But if at least they can signpost their workforces to organisations that maybe charities that will give information, a lot of information on websites, but also that support events in the community, for example, or NHS resources, NHS providers that organise events, then that doesn't necessarily cost the employer in terms of much time or its own financial resources to, give something that will help their workforce take ownership of this themselves. It's got a long-winded way of saying, it's not going to cost the employer. It doesn't have to cost the employer lots and lots, thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds. I mean, there are big employers that can afford that, of course, but not every employer is going to be able to.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, information isn't expensive, to encourage women to empower themselves with knowledge, by providing, like you say, signposts to the right people. And also, there's other things that employers can do as well, that don't cost anything. Providing access to temperature control in the work, fans as an example, or adjusting thermostat settings can really help women alleviate things like hot flashes. I mean, that costs absolutely nothing, for them to feel more comfortable in the working environment. Offering flexible work arrangements as well, offering them the ability to take short breaks whilst they're at work, rest periods when needed, so they can manage their symptoms better, and that will improve productivity, obviously. So, allowing sick leave for them to go to their medical appointments related to menopause can also ensure that women have that support. And like I said before, the training of managers, and that isn't really going to cost too much either, I don't think. Training people to make them aware and recognize and respond sensitively to menopausal symptoms, that can really help that, to create that supportive work environment where women feel valued and supported in their work. So it's not difficult.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't be like rocket science, should it? And I think this is just my personal opinion, in truly inclusive workplaces, it shouldn't be about one group versus another. There should be a recognition that all these different things add together to make a more understanding workplace where people give each other mutual, dignity and respect, and there is a value in openness, and that openness leads to more collaboration, more creative thinking together and problem solving, which at the end of the day is about business success. It all feeds into the success of the business. So I think there's a much bigger way of seeing this that employers are missing sometimes, because they feel it's about competing interests of different groups in the workplace, and if they offer it for one group, they've got to offer it for everybody, and that's going to cause them a lot of hassle, and it's not worth it. So I think there's a lot in what you've just said, and many employers may feel bamboozled by the prospect of having to do this. But if there's one thing that they can do, if there's one simple thing that they can take away from this, what would you say it is? What would you give? One simple piece of advice.
I think it's encouraging that, that conversation, just talking about it. It used to be, menopause certainly used to be a very taboo subject, for a while, but now, more and more people are talking about it, and it's just encouraging those conversations, if you like, being open and being empathic and listening, and that costs nothing. That's just being, a nice person and being inclusive and being supportive to your colleagues. It's not really something that is difficult to do. So that would be like a really easy thing, just to encourage more conversation and openness surrounding the subject. I think it is a real key here.
That's brilliant, and that's a really positive way to end our discussion. So just simply some listening, positive, active listening, and encouragement for people to be themselves and to be able to share and get help when they need it. That's brilliant. Thank you, Marie.
Yeah,
so I've really appreciated your time today to unpack this topic a little bit and to understand how nutritional health and hormone health can really play its part in helping women to navigate the menopause and come out of it successfully, and see their hormone health as something that underpins their longevity and their future life after menopause, and aging well and all of that good stuff. So thank you for today. I'm delighted to have you as my first guest on the podcast. How can people reach you? Have you got a website that they can go to? How would you like people to connect with you?
Okay, I do have a website. It's accessible, but it's still under construction, so it's not completely finished. That would be yourhealthyhormones.com. Okay, I'm also on social media, so LinkedIn is my favorite platform. I'm not keen on social media, but I'm also on Instagram as well, and TikTok, which I'm not very keen to be on TikTok, but hey, we've got to get the message out there somewhere. And so, yes, women can find me specifically LinkedIn, which is where I spend most of my time when I'm on social media. Yeah.
Brilliant. So yourhealthyhormones.com. Go and check it out and find Marie there. And thank you, Marie.